believe me, I didn't order the weather because of wanting to have some showmanship or something, but we have attorney Bradford Pelton here with us in the studios, and you made it in.
Thanks. I didn't get the memo, but it's Colorado, and I figured I'd show up today because there may come a time when you need to run a tape.
Well, and, it's always okay because, like I said, I don't like my people to risk their lives if they don't have to. Now, we're going to go ahead and jump into this. Let's talk about your practice. One of the things, personal injury, also other things, but maybe you could expand on that a little bit and tell folks as far as your areas of practice in your law firm.
Thanks, Paul. I'd be glad to. Folks, mostly what I do is workers' compensation. I do personal injury work that involves automobile accidents, premises liability, dog bite, bicycle accidents. In general, if it happens on the road, at work, or any place in between, you want to call me and see if I can help you, because I'll certainly try.
And one of the things I just want to let people know right now, absolutely free for them to give you a call, get some more information, sit down and have a consultation with you and or some of your staff. But most of the time, they're going to be sitting down. They're going to be talking directly to you, the attorney.
That's correct. My associates, I like to call them my ensemble. They know what I'm doing. They're very dedicated to what they do, and we'll be glad to help you. But when you come into my office, you talk to me.
And you can give them a call today at 719-634-8828, and probably a pretty good bet you're going to be in the office since you're here, right?
That's right.
719-634-8828 will get you in touch with the law office of Bradford Pelton. Online, you can go to Bradford Pelton, Pelton, law.com, BradfordPeltonLaw.com. And, of course, I don't want you scrambling around and writing stuff down, especially the weather the way it is. So just, if you forget everything, just as go to ProsOnCallLive.com, go to our page for our pro businesses. All their contact info is right there. But 719-634-8828. I'm going to just jump into this because of the weather. We're going to hear about accidents today. And the reason that they call them accidents, I guess, is because nobody, I hope nobody, gets up in the morning and goes, I'm going to go crash into somebody today. As they say, compost occurs. But let's talk a little bit about that. You're in an auto accident. The roads have been bad. Maybe somebody hit you. Maybe you hit somebody else. What are the steps that a person really needs to go through? Those people that advertise, so much on television will tell you to call them first 24/7, and I think that that's kind of silly. I'm just going to say that.
Well, I will say this. First of all, you have to figure out, you have to talk to the other driver if you can, and get the required information exchanged. In general, they want to know about your insurance, and they want to take a look at your license. Most likely the police will show up unless it's a cold call day, and frankly, I don't know whether today is or not.
I haven't heard, but yeah, I would imagine it. If it isn't yet, it probably will be.
I will say this. Everybody has a cell phone. Everybody can take pictures. If there's damage to your vehicle, you need to get pictures and take as many as you can. You don't have to be a photographer. Just take pictures of your car. The other thing I would advise you to do, and almost nobody ever thinks of this, take pictures of the other vehicle that's involved.
Oh, yeah.
There's an amazing range of damage to vehicles. I've certainly seen, we call them the target vehicle, with almost no damage to the rear end. And then the bullet vehicle is severely damaged. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the defense is, well, we didn't hurt your car. So having pictures of the other car will help explain the dynamics involved in the automobile accident.
Well, and that makes sense because you can get a better picture of the whole thing rather than just a snapshot. So you're going to take pictures, and you're right. Almost everybody has a cell phone. Take pictures of your vehicle, of the vehicle, the other vehicle or vehicles that were involved in the accident. What about like with right now, what we're talking about with road conditions and things like that? Should you document that? Is that something that you can stand on? I guess I should say.
Well, they like to defend on a concept that lawyers call sudden emergency. Mm-hmm. That, gosh, they didn't know the roads were slick. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, it's Colorado, it's snowing, the roads are slick. You have a duty to drive within the circumstances that you're in. Mm-hmm. In other words, you can't go 45 if the appropriate speed is 25. Mm-hmm. And weather conditions do play a part. Okay.
Well, and I'm going to pose this to you. And folks, if you're just tuning in, we're talking with attorney Bradford Pelton. He is a personal injury, workers' comp injury attorney right here in Colorado Springs. If you have been injured in any sense, as far as slip and fall, auto accident, on the job, anything like that, give them a call today. It's absolutely free to find out where you're at, what you can do, and let them guide you down this path. When it doesn't cost you a dime to get that professional information, why wouldn't you? 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. Okay, so I got a scenario for you here. Okay, so you're driving down I-25, okay? And let's just take this for an example. This morning, okay, very, very sketchy conditions out there, and there's some places not so bad, and there's other places, pretty darn bad. So let's say that you know that the roads are bad, and you're driving, and let's say that you're on the freeway, and you're doing, 30, 40 miles an hour because the roads are snow-packed and they're kind of slick. And then you hit a patch that was unforeseen because it was covered with the snow, and you kind of slide, somebody crashes into you. What are the dynamics of that type of a scenario?
Well, again, hopefully you're not hurt. Mm-hmm. And if you are, you need to get your medical issues figured out as quickly as you can. Typically, in some of these car accidents, particularly under these conditions, people are excited. The adrenaline starts to run. Nobody wants to be hurt. Nobody wants to be involved in an auto accident. Nobody wants to fool with it, frankly.
Right.
And so denial is one of the first responses that you get. I'm fine. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many police reports I've reviewed where 3 days later people have real problems, real pain, real issues, but they tell the officer at the scene, I'm fine. Mm-hmm. They refuse the ambulance ride.
Sure.
So none of that particularly changes because of the weather.
Yeah.
The weather does raise your level of awareness mm-hmm. of your surroundings, I would imagine anyway. It certainly did for me coming in today.
Yeah, it did for me.
But basically what you want to try to do is get the information from the other driver, mm-hmm. make sure to the extent you can that people are okay, that the cars can be driven off. Clearly, if it's a bigger accident, you got to arrange for the tow trucks.
Right.
You got to deal with the emergency personnel that come, mm-hmm. and of course you have to talk with the police officer.
Right.
Again, pictures, as they say, tell 1,000 times what words do.
Right, and that's a great thought, or that's a great thing to do. There's no doubt.
And I'll tell you, you can't have too many pictures.
Okay.
So it's just one step at a time. It is. I've been in my own accident, and I can tell you it's a surreal experience.
Yeah.
People look different. You feel different. Your heart's pounding. It's
well, and it's strange because it's almost like time slows down too. And you kind of relive it in your mind. It's a weird deal.
Very clear memories.
Right.
Of what happened, and mm-hmm. you're right. It's almost like slow motion.
Yeah. So now, okay, you slid, okay, and then somebody hit you. because you slid. Now, would there be a situation where, because you were talking about that, would they say, well, you weren't driving for the conditions, so would there be a possibility that you could be ticketed and be at fault for that, or would there be fault with the other driver if they weren't driving for the conditions? And I'm throwing this out there hypothetically, but I'm just kind of saying, because of the fact that I've heard about these types of things before, multiple cars involved, and it's the old thing about sorting out who's at fault, and is there clear pictures on these, or is it just all kind of gray area to be hashed out?
Well, I almost hate to give you the lawyer's answer.
Well, I know what it is, but go ahead. It depends.
But of course, it depends.
Right.
Sometimes it's very clear. Sometimes it's not. I certainly have seen people stopped because of mistakes they've made, and then they get struck. Mm-hmm. And of course, the defense is, well, you put yourself in that position. Mm-hmm. So those issues do get teased out and tend to be very fact-driven scenarios, mm-hmm. which, again, would encourage me to encourage you to document, to the extent you can, mm-hmm. the conditions under which the crash occurred.
Okay. So, but could there be multiple parties at fault in these? And that's what I was kind of curious about, because, if somebody is, if somebody gets into an accident today, or maybe they're already in one sitting in their car listening to us, I hope not, but, if so, then this information's valuable. So there could be conditions that say, okay, that you did this, and so that was a problem, but also this person did that, and even though they hit you, they could say, well, that person was in front of me, they did that, but they could be at fault also?
Correct. It's called comparative negligence here in Colorado, mm-hmm. and I don't want to get too deep into the woods with you, but it certainly does depend. Mm-hmm. Nobody jumps up like they used to at the Perry Mason show when he's under withering cross-examination. Nobody in the back jumps up and goes, "You're right, I'm guilty." So nobody really wants to own up to it.
Yeah. Well, it's the old thing, blame is better to give than receive. Yeah.
And again, the facts will out. Mm-hmm. So it does take thorough investigation, and it does take some thinking, and unfortunately, it does take some time. But it's better to be a little bit slow on that than it is to move too quickly. Okay, and that's good advice right there. Take it slow. Contact the law office of Bradford Pelton. Find out exactly what your options are, and then move along at a pace that is going to fit what happened. That's exactly right. Okay. And folks, we are talking with Bradford Pelton. He's an attorney at law here in Colorado Springs. And if you've been involved in an auto accident, slip and fall, anything that deals with personal injury, workers' comp issue, you can give them a call. It's absolutely free to call them and talk with them at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we got a whole lot more. So stay with us here on Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM. Pros on Call. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Pros on Call. Thanks for tuning in, spending time with us here on Cruisin' Oldies, 1040 AM, 98.5 FM, 752 in the AM here. Been talking with Bradford Pelton, attorney at law here in Colorado Springs. I want you to be able to give him a call if you have been, or if down the line, God forbid, stuff happens. As they say, compost occurs. But the fact is that if you can turn to somebody to get some valid information, know where you're at, where to go, that is the most valuable thing that you're going to find, and it doesn't cost you a dime to give them a call. If you need them, they're there. 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. And one of the things, I'm not trying to put people down here. Certainly I don't want to do that with attorneys, Brad, because they'll sue me. But the fact is that different law firms
firms have different takes on the way that they handle things. There are a lot of them out there that they evaluate these cases because, I mean, they are running stuff through like you wouldn't believe, and they are just fast and furious about looking at something saying, too much work, not enough money, next. You're going to be honest with people and really tell them where they're at and what they can expect so that they can really make a decision. And if they decide that they're comfortable with you and that they want to travel down that path, you're going to represent them, right?
That's exactly right. It takes time, and you need to pay attention to the details. I had a very wise man who taught me the ins and outs of workers' compensation 30 years ago. And Dale said, almost anybody can settle the big cases. Almost anybody can resolve these issues. He said, but what we really get paid to do is the little stuff. And it does turn, frankly, on some very small issues. They turn out to be critical to the outcome of the case. Mm-hmm. So a thorough, patient evaluation prior to moving is absolutely critical.
Well, and sometimes the little stuff, it ain't so little to the person that it happened to. And so looking at that objectively and saying that, it's just one of those where choosing the right attorney firm is so important, and feeling comfortable with them, feeling that they're going to be competent representation for you, that's something that's in the process. It's not about just saying, well, gee, I saw that person got somebody $1 million, so I want my $1 million too. It's not that way, is it?
No, it's not that way. I wish it were on occasion, but it's just not that way.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth what it's going to be worth. Mm-hmm. And it's a fair question for them to ask me at the beginning, what is my case worth? And I like to answer them by saying that the journey of 1,000 miles may start with the first step, but the journey of 1,000 miles ends with the very last step. Mm-hmm. And until you know, you don't know.
Wow. Well, and that's what people have to understand. That's why I'm going there with getting competent representation, somebody that's going to be honest with you, and, being able to actually sit down with the attorney that's representing you rather than just somebody that's, there to take information, shuffle some papers, push them over to somebody. In a lot of these places, I mean, you may never meet with the attorneys whatsoever.
Well, I have a nice story that's directly on point. The young lady who is now my client did hire one of the larger firms here in town, and for 2 months thought stuff was going on her claim, mm-hmm. when in fact it was not.
Whoa.
Her grandmother was a retired paralegal, and she said, well, I know how to handle this.
Oh.
So they went down to the lawyer's office, spent 2 hours in the office, and still never talked to the lawyer.
Wow.
They wouldn't see her. Mm-hmm. She didn't have an appointment. So she didn't know what else to do, and a client of mine said, well, you need to go talk to Brad. So she did, and her claim was well on its way to resolution in less than a week.
Wow.
2 months, nothing was going on with the other firm.
And that's so frustrating to people because, generally speaking, I think most people, we just want to be whole again. We want to have the property damage, if you will, taken care of, and if it's a car or something, get that replaced. We want to be healthy again. We want to not be in pain, and we want to just get on with our lives. And if there's a little bit of money for maybe pain and suffering or the injuries or something, well, that's okay. But I think that the most important thing, and that really kind of goes full circle, is getting that care that you need to get your life back, to get whole again, and getting your property repaired or replaced, and getting on with life. This is not something that you want to make a lifelong proposition out of.
Unfortunately, in so many circumstances, it's actually not up to the client. The injuries are what they are, no matter what you think they are. Mm-hmm. And it takes that amount of time to recover. Whether you like that idea or not, you do need to continue with your doctor. You do need to follow their instructions. It's not a good strategy to decide that you're the doctor.
Yeah.
It's not a good strategy to decide that you want to take herbs when he's recommended medication. So it is important to understand the nature of the process, which is you start at the beginning and move carefully to the end.
And it's certainly not a good idea to be your own attorney. As they say, person who represents themselves has a fool for a client. You know what? Don't be foolish. Give them a call today. If you've been in any type of accident, if you will, today, or have been, keep it in mind. Give them a call. Workers' compensation, personal injury, auto accidents. It's all about helping you get your life back. When you call the law firm of Bradford Pelton at 719-634-8828. That's 719-634-8828. Online, BradfordPeltonLaw.com. Time goes too fast. Let's talk next week again.
I sure look forward to it, Paul. Thanks for having me.